To get ahead of 99% of grapplers, you only need to put in 15% more effort. Getting ahead has never been easier because the bar is so low. Just showing up to training is not enough to get ahead. It's the minimum to participate. When I first started training, I was obsessed with getting better. I was training 10 to 12 times per week and I was destroying my body in the process. This approach is ineffective and certainly not sustainable. I needed more direction. I needed more focus. I needed a clear, actionable plan. I recently spoke with a very talented Australian grappler who's already been successful at the international level. He believes that succeeding in professional grappling is easier than ever and it will only get more difficult from here. Even if you're not aiming to be a pro grappler, there's a lot that you can learn from this insight. If you want to get ahead of 99% of grapplers and surpass your training partners, it's easier than you think because 99% of people are not doing the work. The systematic approach to Jiu-Jitsu mastery. Improving as fast as possible without destroying your body in the process and abandoning all your other life commitments requires efficiency. There are two primary pillars to tackle: the technical side of Jiu-Jitsu and the physical mastery of your body. The technical: study Jiu-Jitsu, game plan, technical discipline. The physical: training frequency, strength training, recovery tactics. In the video, 4 ways to get better at Jiu-Jitsu off the mats, I introduced my approach to studying Jiu-Jitsu. Here's a quick summary. Take notes. This simple note-taking system will take you at most 5 minutes to complete. 1. Write out the techniques shown in class. 2. Include a maximum of 3 to 4 main key details and use brevity. 3. Write out a quick self-assessment of your roles, what you did well and where you got stuck. 4. Briefly read back what you wrote down. 5. This is optional. Ask your coach about details you forgot during your next class. Method 2. Study match footage and instructionals. Don't be a technique collector. Apply what you're learning in instructionals. This is how you systematically study Jiu-Jitsu instructionals. 1. Watch the instructional until you learn something new, maximum 15 minutes. Write down the technique and implement it into your training. Rewatch the section if you get stuck. 4. Move on to more of the instructional only once you've successfully implemented the technique. At this point, you may be thinking to yourself, what? But this will take me months to get through the instructional. Yes. That's exactly the point. Would you rather slowly and systematically master the content of one instructional over a 3 to 6 month period, or spend hours per week watching everything you can and still be shit at Jiu-Jitsu? The choice is yours. Game plan. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Approach your Jiu-Jitsu with intent. Each time you step onto the mats, you should know the areas, techniques, or positions you'll be focusing on. That's not to say that you should know what your coach is going to teach or that you should be drilling your own techniques regardless of what your coach is showing you. It means approaching each and every role as an opportunity to practice what you've been studying or what area you're focusing on. When I was at the beginning of my blue belt, my coach pulled me aside and he told me that my top game was great, but my guard game sucked. And if I wanted to progress, I had to fix it. This conversation was a turning point for my jiu-jitsu. And more than 2 years after that, I've played guard. That's not to say I didn't take sweeping opportunities when they presented themselves, or come on top to pass when required, or play top game during competitions, but my game plan and my area of focus was guard. Specifically, I was playing a lot of half guard. Spending 3 to 6 months of targeted focus on a specific area of your game will fast track your development. Even just thinking about your focus area will open up more opportunities for you on the mats. For example, if you spend time focusing on arm bars, you'll start seeing arm bars everywhere in positions that you never thought were possible. And here's the exciting part. Those opportunities or those arm bars were always there. But how do you choose your focus area? Here's a systematic approach to choosing the area you should be focusing on. 1. Ask your coach. They should know your game better than anyone. 2. Study your favorite grappler's game. Ideally, pick someone with a similar body type to you. Personally, I studied Izaki Bahance when I was a white belt, and this was under my coach's recommendation. 3. Pursue techniques or areas you find interesting. At the end of the day, Jiu-Jitsu is a hobby. Look for techniques or positions that you enjoy and take a deep dive into those. 4. fill the holes in your game. Keep getting past, fix your guard. Struggle with your stand-up, focus on your wrestling and your takedowns. If you can't find any holes in your game or you don't know what they are, go and compete, and I'm sure that they will be revealed to you. 5, copy the best guys in your gym. Look at the most successful, technical, and proficient purple, brown, and black belts that you train with, and then mimic parts of their game. This is an effective approach because you have access to the person directly. You'll be able to ask them how they overcame certain positions or certain roadblocks that you'll inevitably face. 6, get a private lesson. Privates can be a fantastic way to sit down with an expert and get targeted one-on-one help with your game plan and to create a plan moving forward. I have helped several white and blue belts plan out the next 6 to 12 months of focused training with privates. Not all effort is equal. 1 hour of just showing up is not the same as 1 hour of intentional training. Technical discipline. Technical discipline is a concept that I learned from Jordan Pressinger of Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu here on YouTube. I trained with Jordan at his gym in Canada when I was just a blue belt. He called me out after our rolls saying that my technique was great for my level, but that I was lazy and I lacked technical discipline. And he's not wrong. He told me that he knows that I know how to keep my elbows tight and prevent my opponent from gaining control of my inside position and gaining the underhook. But I often conceded the underhook because I was fatigued, I lacked focus, and I lacked technical discipline to keep my elbows tight. He was 100% correct. I bet you've had a very similar experience to this. Say you're in a bad position, like flattened out half guard on the bottom, and your opponent is making things incredibly uncomfortable for you with a very heavy cross-face pressure. So you concede the pass to relieve your pressure and discomfort because a little voice was whispering in the back of your mind, just concede and settle down into side control bottom, and you'll be able to escape from there. And all of a sudden, your guard has been passed, the pressure stays on, and everything is far worse than before they pass your guard. This is a prime example of lacking technical discipline, and 99% of grapplers just don't have it. Keep your elbows tight. The physical. Now let's talk about the physical requirements of performing on the mats. The average jiu-jitsu practitioner trains around 2.5 times per week. If you consistently train 3 times per week, this is only 15% more effort, and you'll get ahead and rise above the average. This may not seem like groundbreaking or revolutionary piece of advice, but when we introduce the laws of compound interest, you'll be shocked at the power of consistency over a long period. Rather quickly, you'll reach the point where you're beginning to surpass your training partners even when they started training well before you did. This is an incredibly satisfying experience. If achieving this doesn't seem possible for you right now and you just don't think it's attainable, I recommend changing your mindset and having a mental realignment. In the words of my coach, Adam Childs, on an episode that we did on the Beyond Jiu-Jitsu podcast,
I mean, really, come on. Like, no one comes into jiu-jitsu and you can be a natural, but like, no one is not getting their ass kicked.
You have to be okay with the fact that you're going to suck. Embrace the suck. Train a minimum of 3 times per week. Strength training. Lifting weights for BJJ is no longer a nice to have. It's a prerequisite for getting ahead and, most importantly, staying injury-free on the mats. Regardless of the reasons that brought you into this sport, if you want to do well and you want to stay safe on the mats, you have to lift weights. More than 60% of grapplers will experience at least 1 2-week absence from training due to injury in a 3-year period of grappling. The number one way to reduce your risk of injury on the mats is to do a jiu-jitsu specific strength training program. Lifting weights will cut your risk of injury in half. You don't need to train every day or to sacrifice your grappling training to lift weights instead. Simply lifting weights 2 to 3 times per week is all you need. But it can be challenging to know where to begin. Luckily for you, I've got you covered. Click the link in the description and you'll be taken to my free program quiz, where you can find the best training program to suit your goals for performance and, most importantly, to reduce your risk of injury. Recovery tactics. If strength training is the number one way to reduce your risk of injury, then recovery is a close second. There are 3 pillars to recovery for jiu-jitsu: sleep, nutrition, and training intensity. Sleep is the most crucial aspect of recovery. During sleep, our bodies do the majority of repairing and rebuilding from the physical stresses of training. Growth hormone, vital for tissue repair and recovery, is primarily released during deep sleep. Poor sleep can lead to decreased performance, increase risk of injuries, compromise immunity, and even negatively impact your mood and your mental health. I recommend aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep opportunity per night. Improving your sleep is easier said than done. I know this, particularly when you're trying to balance your work life, your family life, your training, and everything else that you want to do. I get it. Sleep can be a massive struggle and somewhat of a luxury. Similar to your training though, you can significantly improve your recovery and your performance just by prioritizing sleep and taking it seriously, moving it up in the priority list in your life. You'll thank me later. Nutrition. Nutrition plays a crucial role in recovery. After a training session, your muscles are depleted and damaged. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but eating the right food and enough of it helps to replenish your energy stores and repair this muscle tissue, building them back bigger and stronger. I can't tell you everything you need to know about nutrition in just a short video, but I'm going to try anyway. The 3 primary macronutrients that make up your food are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Protein is essential for repairing and building muscle. Carbohydrates is essential for replenishing glycogen stores, which is the energy stores in your muscle. And fats, especially omega-3s, can reduce your inflammation and are a crucial part of hormone production. And yes, this includes testosterone. Here are some general guidelines, rapid fire, to help you improve your nutrition. Most grapplers are under-eating, particularly under-eating carbohydrates. Approximately 50% of your calories should be carbohydrate. Eat around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or around 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram. Your fats should be around 25 to 30% of your total calories. Don't neglect quality sources of fat. Hydration is an essential and often overlooked part of nutrition for performance. Even mild dehydration can impair your performance and your recovery. Outside of your training, aim to drink at least 3 to 4 liters of water, or around 1 gallon. During training, I recommend following this rehydration protocol. Step 1, weigh yourself before your training session. Step 2, weigh yourself again after you train. Step 3, calculate the difference in weight and multiply it by 125% or by 1.25. Why 125%? Because that's the amount of fluid you've lost in sweat plus a little bit extra. Hopefully you followed along there, but if you didn't, it's totally fine. You can download a completely free Jiu-Jitsu hydration protocol. Link is in the description. Training intensity management. Training intensity refers to how often you're training and how hard you're training. Suppose you push your body to the absolute limit every single session. In this case, you won't be making as much progress as you think, and you might actually be getting worse. You're also at an increased risk of injury. If your training frequency and intensity is too high, you may enter into a state of what's called non-functioning overreaching. This means you're not recovering from your training and you're not improving. And in some cases, you may even be getting worse. Here's the reality. Your grappling intensity will change week to week, and oftentimes it's out of your control. So you must follow a strength training program that accounts for your grappling to manage your training intensity holistically across the board. This is where auto-regulation comes into play. It's a tool that adjusts your training intensity based on your recovery levels and your fatigue during a given training session. My favorite form of auto-regulation, and this is what I use in my programs, is rate of perceived exertion. RPE is a scale between 1 and 10, which determines how difficult each set should be. Therefore, you can adjust the weight that you're lifting according to your fatigue and recovery levels of each given session. However, you're still achieving the intent behind the training program. This is more effective than traditional powerlifting percentage-based training or training like a bodybuilder and utilizing the periodization method of weight selection. Using the training frequency and auto-regulation recommendations in this video will take you from a state of non-functioning overreaching, functioning overreaching, and ideally super compensation. And if you want to accelerate this process and work with me one-on-one, then click the link in the description. I'm taking on a limited number of one-on-one clients on BJJ Strong Online. If you got value from this video, it really helped with the YouTube algorithm. If you smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you think of the list. Is there anything I forgot about? Anything I missed out? I want to hear your feedback. Thanks for watching.